Texas is finding ways to ban kids from using social media without, proper parental consent or, age and whatever else.
I agree with that. That's probably one of the greatest things to come out of Texas.
I think it's a conversation people don't want to have. But I agree to it too. I get to some degree. As long as it's not in an attempt to stop people from like sharing, information in real time, I agree with it.
Yeah.
If it's setting up blockers so kids aren't able to go on certain websites and access certain information, to me that does make a lot of sense. But if it's just we don't want you telling people that we're no longer teaching this in school, or like kind of like the Starbucks thing where people are like, Starbucks is not letting us do certain things and stuff like that.
I could see what you mean by that. Like, I could see it being related, but at the same time, it's like, can we realistically trust children with the dissemination of this information anyway?
Well, that's why I think you should have parental controls and
Yeah.
and blockers and stuff. But I don't know if banning them or stopping them from having access altogether is a good thing.
I think that it definitely calls into question what children need access to or what the childish experience needs to be. Because, like, to me, the access to technology and social media, that has zero bearing on children. Like, I don't think
that's true.
Not like that. I'm saying as in, like, in terms of necessity of that technology, children don't need that at all. Because we grew up without it, for the most part.
Okay, well that's different. Because right now, what you sound like is when our parents were like, we grew up without cell phones.
But I'm not saying that it's cell phones. I'm saying it's social media.
I know, but I'm
Like,
saying
what-
But that's the culture now.
But what's to gain from having children on social media right now? Are you
I
saying
mean-
that we're going to be missing children fighting for their right to learn critical race theory on social media?
So that's what I'm saying though.
Because
the
I don't think
people-
that's the concern.
That kind of is the concern, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, yeah, there are things I feel like kids don't need to see on social media, but I don't think I would go as far as to say they don't need to have access to it.
Not in the ways that it's used. If there were such thing as a youth or children's social media platform, I would be way more about that, but there isn't. It's all designed for people above the ages of 16.
I mean, yeah, but
And that's usually what the end user license agreement is. So, like, yeah, we should probably just not let them use it if there isn't one that exists for them.
I don't know, because now we're running into, because not everything you see online are things that kids aren't able to see. So again, it's a fine line.
And that's fair, but that's what I'm saying is, like, if the technology was developed to expand the range of connection between people within a certain demographic or people who are in need of this thing that's lacking so that they can get their information, children below a certain age are getting their information from the more organic sense of that exchange, which is running into each other at school, talking about things, like calling your friends.
But also, we don't need to flip the internet into something that we need to learn from. Because what's wrong with kids being on the internet and just doing nothing but goofiness on there?
I'm not saying that that's a problem either. What I'm saying is the thing that they're regulating, I think that it makes sense for them not to have access to it.
What is the thing that they're regulating?
They're regulating the type of interactions on social media that we as adults are supposed to be having. As in being able to talk about politics, being able to talk about, I mean, I guess in Texas, this is in one way or another a way for them to protect against discussions on critical race theory or the LGBTQ and like all that stuff. But all in all, like I'm saying, I don't think that it's outrageous to be like, yeah, kids don't need to see that in this form. Like, you remember the leapfrog devices? It's like a little laptop.
Yeah.
And they're like, it literally connected to the internet. And like, you
That
could,
was stupid.
okay, but I'm not saying that it has to be like that. I'm saying that like, that is a predecessor of the kind of technology that in my eyes would keep the youth safe.
You know what's funny about this? Along the same lines of kids don't need to be on the internet or on in some spaces.
Like, we don't even think adults need to be on these things.
I
dude.
mean, I know, but again, that's very case by case. But there's the other side of that where there was this article I was reading where it was talking about nowadays. So here's the example. I'll break it down for you like this. It's when you're a black person, you walk into a room, and all the white kids who are, say 5, 6, and under, all stare at you. The entire time you're in there, they're just staring. You, with your knowledge, you might, look a little bit more into it. You're thinking like, oh, this kid's probably racist or, whatever it is. But then the article talked about how when in reality, what's happened over time is when we do things like this where oh, my headphones just died.
No.
No. I think it's like powering down. I think it's good. When we do things like this and in the name of, kids don't need to be a part of this conversation, they don't need to be online, what happens is these kids grow up watching talking dogs and talking cats and talking ducks, and they're never actually exposed to what the real world is, which is there's a black person who lives next door to you, or there's a black person who lives in your community that you'll run into. Because again, it's that idea of, since they're kids, we need to really romanticize like the reality they live in.
Once again, though, those things are learned not inherently just from social media. And we're finding that in a lot of cases, they're actually learning worse things about those things when they're exposed to social media.
But that's where no one is setting up parental controls. That is a thing. That is a feature, but no one is doing it.
And therefore, the people who are voting on it are saying, all right, fine. Since people won't do it, we're going to vote to have parental controls. And I'm saying I agree with that.